Hello, hello, hello. Today we have
Hello.
the wonderful Ed Charbeneau on deck for our speaker spotlight for DevReach 2023. Ed is a longtime dotnet enthusiast who specializes on the front end with Blazor and CSS, and his talk at DevReach will be all about the future of cross-platform Blazor, and it's going to explore the various Blazor targets, advantages, and trade-offs on how to choose between things like Blazor Hybrid, Blazor PWA, or Blazor Electron. So Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today for this interview. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing, Alyssa?
Very good, very good. Excited to, honestly, we're so close. We're so close to DevReach. It's getting
I can't believe
saucy.
it's like just about 2 weeks away, plus a couple days.
Yeah, when you say
It's
2 weeks,
wild.
it kind of gives me like a mild heart attack. I was thinking 3 in my head. So.
It is closer to 3 probably than it is 2. But
Well,
travel day. You gotta work in the
right.
travel days there.
Yeah, mentally, I like to pretend like it's my best way of handling stress is I pretend like it's not going to happen until I'm stepping on the plane. So, yeah. Technically, we've got a year. So,
In Alyssa time, we have.
Oh yeah, it's like girl math, Alyssa math. So you have worked with me for the last 6 years. I think you've been there the whole time, weren't you? Didn't you start at Telerik Progress before me? I think you did.
Yeah, I've been at Progress 7 years now.
So
Yeah.
as long as I've known you, you've been a .NET enthusiast and been a Blazor enthusiast as well. But I don't know if that's how your story got started. Where did you get your start in technology?
How long do we have? This is like.
Is it a sordid past of much adventure and woe?
It is quite the timeline, and it's a long but very fact-filled timeline. Like there's a lot going on in there. Like I don't have a degree in software. Like I got a degree in electronics engineering and did a very many different positions in that industry for quite some time before I just latched onto programming and decided that was what I was going to do instead. So you name it, I've done it. Calibration technician, electronic engineering aide, EEPROM programming engineer, all sorts of stuff. Destructive failure analysis engineer.
That is so cool. How did you transition though from hardware to software?
I was running this EEPROM programming department, and they were like working out of the Stone Age. So the year was 1997, and we had a decent network and stuff at work and some okay computers and whatnot. But for some reason, like this department was running with like floppy disks and like old timey machines with. Like Windows 3.1, like it was just stuck in the past for some odd reason. And they had like this giant paper Bible that kept all of their secrets. And
Wait, like just one?
like all this tribal knowledge was just in this binder. And they would load the machines with all of this like data that they'd have to like look up in a book and then pull a floppy disk out with like some weird cross reference and like run it to a machine physically and put it in and verify it against the Bible. And it's just this archaic old timey system.
Do you ever think back and seriously think those were the days?
No. They were never the days. This was like 1960s 70s equipment or something that we were like running on. So I got new equipment pulled in, hooked things up to the internal network, and took that entire Bible of material and wrote an app that translated all of that stuff into instructions you could just barcode scan, and like the machine would just set itself up. And all of the people that worked in that department were just like, wow, this is magic. And I just kept going through the factory, like doing that after that project, because they would pull in managers and they're like, look what this used to be like and look what it's like now. And they're like, it saves X amount of time. And
I bet, yeah.
when people say it saves time, you could see the management dollar signs floating above their heads. So they're just like bringing me, like pulling me by my
from like department to department, like
come over here, save money in this place. And I kept doing that until I got a promotion to their corporate office, and I was just running around to different factories they owned, writing software, little
Oh, that is
niche
so
things. Yeah.
cool. So, like, my next question for you was like, has front end always been your passion? But based on your experience with building out this system from scratch, I would say like that was full stack or back end, right? Like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
It was full stack from day one.
Yeah.
And, there's some people out there like full stack doesn't exist. Yeah, we're here. we do some pretty bizarre things, maybe things we shouldn't do, but you know, not by ourselves. Like there was no version control on these things. There was no user experience.
I mean, unless you like, you know, backed it up on a floppy and called it version 1.
Yeah, we had like I had like the folder, like old version, new version.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. It was really bad practice stuff, but it got the job done, and it was like really niche stuff with just a handful of users.
That is so cool. Was the languages that you were using at the time, were they like close to C# or .NET or no? Like,
so I used VB.NET.
Oh,
so
like
VB6
in that factory, that's what you were using?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that
I was
is so cool.
running VB6, doing WinForms.
Shut up.
Yeah, VB6 WinForms apps.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
It wasn't even called Visual Studio back then. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like the precursor to Visual Studio. And before .NET was .NET.
So when Blazor was announced, were you just like, yes? Or were you just like, ugh? Like what?
Yeah, I was at the MVP summit, and Steve Sanderson was doing a demo on what he thought Blazor would be, and I immediately like latched onto it. It was like, yeah, this is too easy. We need to do this. At the time, we were doing like you know, that schmangular kind of rhymes with that. I won't say it directly because I know some people, presently included, might be upset. But I didn't really like the way this new schmangular thing was. So I was like, this is a breath of fresh air. Like
like asking for a friend, what version of schmangular at the time would you have been on?
This was beta 2.
Okay, cool.
Wasn't a fan at the time.
Yeah, many people were not a fan of that version. Just so you know.
So Blazor looked really nice. And
I had no idea Blazor came out like right around like Angular beginning times. That's so cool.
It wasn't too far after they were doing experiments with it, and it stayed experimental for a while.
Did it change much from that? Like what Steve was showing, what he thought it would look like? Is it much different?
I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like the simplicity is still there. So the component model and everything is still the same as how he envisioned it.
Okay.
The overall architecture has changed pretty drastically, but that component model has stayed the same, and that's what makes it really easy to learn, in my opinion, is that, you know, things are just components, and everything's a component. And HTML inside of a Razor file is now a reusable thing, and it's like super easy.
That's awesome. So your talk for DevReach, the future of Cross Platform Blazor, I mentioned in the intro that you'll be covering differences between like Blazor Hybrid, Blazor PWAs, and Blazor Electron. And I wanted to ask if we can talk about it without spoiling too much from your session. Can you give me the TLDR between these?
So if you want to take your web dev skills and go deploy a mobile or desktop application with those same skills, there's probably 4 or 5 different ways to do that.
Oh God. How do you pick?
Exactly. That's what the talk is about. So there's Blazor on, you know, just responsive web. You could do it that way. Just make sure everything works on a smaller screen and let people open their web browsers up on mobile devices and access it that way. That only gets you so far. You can't use, you know, all of the native features of a device. And then you start looking at other things like progressive web apps and what do those give you, and then Electron. And there's a version of Electron built for .NET called Electron.NET, and that gives you some more stuff that lets you write less JavaScript, and then it deploys to desktop natively. And then there's Maui, and then Maui brings Blazor Hybrid into picture, and then you got to start choosing which one of these things
Yeah.
you want to pick and why. Like there's trade-offs to all of them, and there's no real silver bullet between them.
But like, if I came to you with a project and I was like, I need this, like, right, like online tomorrow. Do you know
tomorrow?
Yeah.
You're starting to sound like a manager now.
Do you know which direction you would point someone in if they were like?
So you'd have to ask a lot of questions like, what is your development team like? What are their skill sets? What type of technology do you already have in use, and libraries you might have written before, and what are they written in? There's a lot of questions you have to answer there, and then you can start going down the decision tree of like, do I have JavaScript I need to use? Do I have legacy C# code that I need to use? Which platforms do I want to support? Do I want to go desktop only? Do I want to go mobile? Do I want all of them and the web? Do I want to let it work on the Meta Quest? That's a thing. You could bring your Blazor app to the metaverse and let it run on Meta. Did you know you could do that?
I didn't, and I also, it's like whenever you first got started with software development, and you're like, we were doing things that questionably should we have been doing them. I feel like we're re-entering that.
Of course.
Should we be able to run our Blazor apps on the Meta?
What's really cool about the Quest is that it's Android based, but it's one of the platforms that's out there that allows PWA applications.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you build a PWA app, whether it's Angular, Blazor, or otherwise, it'll actually install on the headset and like act like a 2D app that you can drop in 3D space and just work with. And then, of course, Maui is cross-platform and compiles to APK files, which are Android, executable files that you could put on the Quest as well. So you could go into the store as a 2D app and run on the headset as a 2D app.
That's so cool. It seems like there's so many things to like. Do you cover all of this in the talk, like on each of these different branches that you could take? Like, 'cause that's a lot.
Yes, it's very rapid fire.
Okay.
But we get it all done in an hour. We really do.
That's awesome. So what advice would you give someone starting out in .NET and specifically starting out with Blazor?
So learn a little bit of web standards, like learn a bit about HTML, how it's supposed to be structured, CSS, and how that style sheet system works with the HTML, and some of the C# basics, and that should get you up and running. I think a lot of folks come from like WinForms or maybe like web forms background, and like the HTML and the CSS either isn't there or was abstracted away at some point. And Blazor actually thrives with the native web stuff. So bringing those skills in will help you tremendously, because you'll know how to write better components, style things better. Make it to where your styles aren't clashing with, like Bootstrap or something. Or, you could be really flexible with things if you know how the guts of the HTML and the CSS work.
Very cool. No, I love that. That's some good advice. So I have a twist in direction.
Plot twist.
I have a fun personality question to get to know you a little bit better as a speaker and a person. I know you like to cook. And what I'm wondering is, can you recall what has been your all-time greatest kitchen mistake?
Kitchen mistake?
Yeah. Did you ever just fail epically?
I have, but I'm trying to remember what. Like I rarely catch things on fire, but I have caught the grill on fire a few times.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So make sure you clean your grills often.
Oh, is that why?
Little pro tip there. I get a little lazy in the summer, and you cook steak a couple times or some burgers or whatever, and then you get like the grease like building up in there,
right,
and then you're like, I'm gonna throw these ribeyes on, and they start dripping, and then like all of a sudden you have this like bonfire. And
I mean, you wanted it well done, right? Like.
Yeah, it can get out of control really fast, and I have got a nice little Weber grill and stuff, but it doesn't help the fact that it catches fire quickly.
Oh my word,
Yeah.
that's funny.
So
And
I have burnt
also,
some steaks and I've burnt a couple salmon before. Yeah.
these are some pro tips though, like to avoid very large fires.
Yeah. The worst has happened on the grill outside.
Oh, so that's good though, right? I mean, because it would be really bad if you
When
did
you gotta
this
throw away,
indoors.
$30 worth of steak, I wouldn't say
True.
that's great. but-
Okay, yeah, no, but at least the house is also intact.
Yeah, at least they
so
didn't catch the curtains on fire or anything.
So to wrap things up, can you tell us what you are most excited for about DevReach?
Yeah, I got one more
Oh.
kitchen story.
Oh, tell me.
I remember I was making mashed potatoes one time, and this, you got to picture this in your head, right? Making mashed potatoes, I got the mixer out, right? And I'm going through the mashed potatoes, the power goes out. And I'm like, oh crap. And I pick up the mixer out of the mashed potatoes and I'm like, what do I do now? And the power goes back on and the mixer starts and potatoes go like all over the kitchen.
Oh my god.
I just started laughing hysterically. Like,
Oh my god.
I knew how ridiculous that was.
You
Like,
just-
should be on a sitcom.
Oh, and you just potatoed the whole kitchen. Like,
Yeah, it was up the cabinets, it was on the ceiling, made a full, because I was sideways with it with the beaters in this direction, so it just went
No, so it just up. Yeah.
in my face, on the cieling, made a nice puree.
Were there any potatoes left for dinner?
There were a couple, but most of, you could lick it off the ceiling, I guess, if you wanted to get up there.
Oh my god.
It was a cleaning nightmare. but it
I've
was
definitely never had to
hilarious.
clean food off the ceiling, so that's definitely, you got a one up on me there. That's
It was
amazing.
hilarious. Sorry, what was your next question? I
Yeah,
had to
no.
go.
Just wanted to ask what you're most excited for about DevReach.
Probably just visiting Bulgaria again. Like, this time I've got family in tow, so wife and kids are coming, and they've never been out of the States before, and I've been to Bulgaria. Like, this will be my 5th time, I think.
Nice.
And the people there are amazing. There's the city of Sofia is full of rich history, and we're gonna go tour all the sites and see all the museums and
Yeah.
eat
people
all the
often
foods.
people often are like so jealous of like that I get to travel, and what they don't realize is that it doesn't matter where you are, it matters who you're with. And
Yeah.
the fact that you're bringing like loved ones, it's going to make it such an amazing event, I think, for you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, the little ones too. They're getting like a once in a lifetime thing that they get to experience that I never did when I was a kid. Like, we
Oh no.
traveled
Oh, no.
the U.S. a little bit, but the furthest like of international travel we did was we went to Canada, which is like,
That
is it different? Like, we don't know.
that is farther than I ever made it. So
Like, wow, the money's a different color, but everybody still speaks English, and the food's the same. And
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting though. I think it's going to be such a cool trip. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on for this interview, and cannot wait to see you live on stage. So see you very
Likewise.
soon.